Hello, I'm alone in Finland. This is Eve Online, and I wanted to talk about something to do with actually saving your pod today because I was chatting to somebody online and they showed me a post about someone hacking in Eve. And the way that they had described it, the person did something that was physically impossible. That's how they put it forward. And it was if you misunderstand how the actual system works. So I wanted to clarify what happens when you actually lose a ship and how to save your pod in that instance. So what had actually happened to this particular person was that they had lost their ship, they had been killed at a gate, and the very instant that they had appeared in their pod, they were already locked. And they were saying this isn't possible, this is hacking, nothing can lock you that fast. Now that's not true. It is technically true that there is a time and there's only so much you can boost the locking speed, but if you know about a Loki's insta lock, that time is very, very short. However, in this case, it was actually, from my read of the situation, it was actually something else going on that the person hadn't recognised. So here is the top quality server description that I've actually put on. Now, for those of you that don't know, the server cluster for EVE Online is located in London, the main server cluster for what we all play on as our main accounts. There are test servers in different places, but they don't matter for this. Now, if you, for instance, in this video that was behind, if you are like me and you're located in Finland, then that means that you have a certain time. So when you activate a module, there is a certain amount of time that it takes for your command to get to the server. It's processed by the server cluster, and then that information is sent out to everybody else who is playing alongside you. So when you activate a module at a gate, say for instance, behind me, I turn on my missiles, I tell the computer what to do, the computer tells the server, and the server tells everybody else what is going on. Then, if they activate something for me, if they activate a module against me, they say to that to the server, to their computer, the computer says to the server, and then the server tells me what's going on. So that's the normal run of things, and there is a difference in lag, a difference in time of transmission between each person. So if I'm in Finland and these people are, let's put that up there, if I am in Finland and these people are in, say for instance, the UK, bearing in mind that the server is also in the UK, then the time of transmission from me to the server and for the other people to the server is different because they're obviously physically closer to it, so that time of transmission is different. Now again, network congestion, what you're downloading, all of these things can affect this, but this is just the basic time that's going on. So obviously the further away you are from the server, then the longer it would take for the signal to happen. So with that being said, one of the things that can happen when you're playing EVE is, say for instance, when you actually lose your ship, what's going on there is not the same situation, because when you lose your ship, when your ship explodes, it's the server that dictates that the explosion happened, because all the damage coming in, everything is being processed by that. So when you actually get into your pod, as in your ship is detonated and you arrive in your pod, it's the server that tells everyone that that event happened. And then once your computer registers that that particular thing happening, then I would send my command to warp, and the other people would send their command to try and scramble my pod. Now in this situation, if these people again are in the UK and I'm in Finland, then they would get the information about the pod exploding slightly quicker, and they would get their response in slightly quicker. I would get the information at a longer time, and I would get my response in at a slightly longer time. So their round trip of communication means that they would have a higher chance of locking me down just because they are physically closer. And obviously if you change where the parties are in that particular thing, say for instance, oops, don't want to take that one away. Say for instance, you are located in Australia and they're located again in London. Let's do that. Then the time for them to get the command that you the information that your ship has exploded and your pod is there would be less than a second. But for somebody in Australia, that would be about 2 seconds of transmission time and then 2 seconds for you to come back. So they would actually lock and kill your pod possibly before you even got the information that your pod had sort of appeared. And that's why you can get things like what is going on in the background here, where when I actually lost my ship, it was less than 2 seconds between me appearing in my pod and the people locking me. So I appeared in my pod, I hit warp off, and they caught me, and that's that. That's the next thing that's going on. So that could happen, but if I was against somebody with a longer lag time, there would be a possibility of getting my pod out. So in that instance, it's sort of out of your hands what you're doing, and obviously it can change with geographic location, it can change with network usage and things like that. But one of the things that you can actually do to get around this is, instead of losing your ship and warping out, if you know you're going to lose your ship, then at the last minute eject, because then, going back to the situation that we had, then in this particular situation, what is going on here is that instead of you being told when your pod appears by the server, what's actually going on is you've given the command to eject, so you're telling the server when you've ejected. The server will then tell everybody else, the next person, everybody else, when your pod appears. But what you can do in that time is you can tell the server, and at the same time you can have clicked an object and be slamming warp as much as you can, which means there's a high probability that you will get into warp before their lock comes in. So in that case, you would be able to sort of account for that lag. Now obviously nobody likes to jump out of their ship, but if you're going to lose it, then it might be a possibility. And if you've got a head full of implants that you don't want to lose, that's one way that you can get around this little latency issue. Obviously latency is a problem in all online games. I started gaming back in the 90s and was dealing with pings on a dial-up line when I was playing Counter-Strike for the first time that were over 350 milliseconds, which today would be considered unplayable. So I've sort of learned about this in a different way than most people, and think about it in a slightly different way than some of the newer players to online games, the younger players. But this is something to keep aware of if you want to save your ship, and I thought that was a good piece of information to put out there. What's going on and how to account for this in Eve. Just a little tip that I don't see in many places, so I thought I'd make this video. Once again, thanks for watching. I've got lots of subscribers and I think that's really cool. Leave comments. I like to hear everybody's opinions and stuff like that. If you've got any tips, tricks or anything like that you'd like to see, or any questions about things, just put them down in the comments. I like reading them, I like responding to things, and I like general sort of feedback and comments, good or bad. I think everything should be said. So thanks for watching. Have a good time. Fly safe if that's what you choose to do. And if not, try and video it. It's always funny when you lose stuff. So, bye.